こんにちは。元テスラ社員で経営コンサルタントのバートちぐさです。さて今日はスペシャルゲストを迎えての動画ですよ。テスラのモデル3、モデル Y の徹底的なリバースエンジニアリングで有名。そして日本でもですね、すごく人気が高まってきているサンディ・ムンローさんです。サンディさんは日本の造形が深くてですね、日本の自動車産業とのつながりも深いんです。その辺もお話ししてくださっています。そして彼がテスラに対して本当はどういうふうに感じているのか、またイーロン・マスクと話をしたとき、一体何が起きたのか、そして日本の自動車業界への提案もしていただいています。では早速見てみましょう。どうぞ。
Aloha, Sandy.
Aloha. Aloha.
How are you?
Good, good. Everything's good.
Great.
Yeah,
Great.
been a busy day.
Wow, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're very, very busy and you're very, very tired maybe. We really appreciate coming on board.
Well, I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I'm extremely excited about getting involved with the Japanese market. I spent a lot of time in Japan. I love Japan, and so I'm extremely happy for our relationship. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So I understand that you've been to Japan many times, and can you briefly let us know what you have done in Japan and what for?
Yes. When I was with Ford Motor Company, that was my first trip to Japan in about 1983, and I went over there in essence because at the time Ford was having a lot of trouble trying to keep up with the Japanese, and also all the problems that we had with our vehicles. So my first trip over was basically a huge surprise. The Japan that I found and the Japan that I was told about were entirely different. So it was a very pleasant surprise. I couldn't believe how gracious everyone was to us, how friendly everyone was. There was two groups of people. There was a big group of executives, and then four of us that we were very low in the totem pole. And in essence, our job was to try and, pick up whatever we could and just learn about Japan. So I went to classes to learn how to speak a few things, important things like benjo, very important.
Very important, yeah.
Yeah, very important. And using a benjo, even more important. So anyway, I spent a lot of time there, and I just remember the first day we landed, and we went to the hotel. It was a fabulous, huge place in downtown Tokyo. And I remember instantly finding out that there was a cultural difference in the United States between us, the people who were coming along with the executives, and the executives, because we were immediately abandoned. And we were abandoned in the middle of a street. We had no place to go, no idea what was happening, and then it started raining. And I remember standing there in the rain thinking, man, this is going to be a crappy trip. I really thought it was going to be. And all of a sudden, this lady came out of nowhere and gave us each an umbrella.
Wow.
And we're standing with the umbrellas. So we reached in our pocket to try and pay her, and she wouldn't accept anything. And that was my first exposure to Japanese hospitality. That wouldn't happen in New York City, ever. And then I went to pretty much every car company that was in Japan visiting, and then ultimately I went to the suppliers communities and whatnot, and that's what I did when I was at Ford from 1983 until 1988. And then of course I was big with Dr. Deming, and Dr. Deming was telling me that I should spend more time in Japan. And I started getting more and more work to use the system that we developed in Ford, the lean design system that I use now. And then, of course, we have a partner in Japan which is Mark Lines. So I got a chance to go, my last trip, I got a chance to go there in November. That was my last time in Japan. It was fabulous. Maybe the best, the fanciest for sure meal I ever had. It was
Well, thank you so much. So you know so much about Japan, and that's great because there are so many people who are really excited to see your videos, and some of them have already seen it, but having a hard time understanding. So so yes, it's really kind of refreshing to know that you know so much about Japan. You are at the cutting edge, and dissecting Teslas and all that, high technology things. So how do you see the automobile industry in general, or automobile industries in Japan?
Well, I think that one of the things that's telling me that Japan is going to probably lead the United States in the EV world is by how many sales we've made of our, we have many different reports, and almost every car company in Japan has purchased our reports.
Wow.
Because they need to know a lot of things. They want to know how much things cost. They want to know what they're made out of. They want to know about how they're put together. And when we do our reports, they're quite large, and they go into a lot of detail, enough detail that in some cases people could figure out how to make whatever it is that's going on at Tesla. Or in the case of the electric motors, there's 12 motors now that we've gone in and done detailed work on, and that kind of information helps design engineers quite a bit to know what they should shoot for. And it also tells them, because really the job of the engineer is not to just design a product, it's to make money for shareholders. And so this allows them to compare what they've designed to what is out there already. They can compare the costs, they can compare the quality levels. There's many good ideas that they can come to the party with. In a lot of cases, improvements over the Porsche or the Jaguar or the Tesla or the GM. We have pretty much, in fact, the Leaf, the Nissan Leaf's the last one we just did. Yeah, the electric motor, the gearbox, and the inverter were the things that we focused our attentions on.
I see. Great. And you're a specialist especially in engines, right? Engines and motors.
Engines, motors, inverter, converters, pretty much anything to do with the electronics end of the business, wire harnessing and stuff like that. Plus, the rest of the drivetrain in the car itself. But most people are interested in the drivetrain. That's the drivetrain and the batteries are the big things for us. Yeah.
Talking about batteries. So we just had Tesla's battery day the other week.
Yeah.
And there have been, a mix of reactions. Some people say it's a great innovation and gives Tesla so much, bigger future.
Yeah.
Many people were disappointed. They didn't hear about million-mile batteries and things like that. So could you please give me your impression of Battery Day in general, and what was the biggest takeaway for you to find out from that presentation?
The thing I was most impressed with was it sounds like bragging, but I predicted most everything that they were going to say, and I did that on video, and I presented it prior to the Battery Day announcement, and I said some things were different. I said that they're going to have a one-piece casting for the front, the rear, and the center. And those three castings will turn into the whole car. And I said that the battery was going to be a 50-70 battery, but it turned out to be a 46-80, same volume. I was happy about that. That made me feel good that we were hitting the right predictions. And then we didn't hit the thing about being tabless, but the way they call tabless is the one we call multiple tabs. And so it came out kind of like that. And then the last thing was the way they're going to be doing the cooling. So cooling plate sits at the bottom. It runs straight down through the center of through the access point of the battery and straight into the negative side, which is placed up against the cold plate and sucks away. And again, I was just, everything I saw, I was really happy. I was so excited. I mean, I really, really was excited for Tesla for doing this. And in essence, at least in battery technology and the build for a battery box, that puts them at least 10 years ahead of everybody else.
10
Nobody
years.
else has done anything years. Yeah.
Wow. So you did your Battery Day episode, and I'm going to present that in Japanese as well.
Yeah.
You showed us the comparison between what it's going to be, the future Tesla battery pack, or not exactly a pack, but the structure with the Jaguar's current structure. So.
Right.
Do you see that the Jaguar is somewhat ahead of Tesla, or no?
No. The only thing that Jaguar had that I demonstrated was the cold pack with the pipes and whatnot. So they had a casting, but inside it's got a whole bunch of smaller batteries that are all connected together. I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, really and truly, why didn't they? I mean, I don't understand why they did what they did. I don't know. I could not understand why every other battery company was making a big giant box that they would put in another big giant box and then cement them all together, and it just seemed stupid. I thought, let's take the cells, put them in a big giant box, put them all inside there, and then fill it up with epoxy. That's what I thought was the right way to do the job, and then just connect them all together. I don't need to have these little tiny boxes. What for? Just make it one great big giant box and call it a day. But anyhow, that's kind of like what Tesla's doing, and we're actually we have two little vehicles, 3-wheel vehicles that we're in the process of doing new product development on, and that's what we're going to do for their battery. But that was planned out a while ago. We said we're going to take. The cold plate will be on the bottom. The batteries will be negative down. The tops we'll use for conductivity. So one will be in the center of the positive side, and then the outside shell is the negative. So that'll be then we connect with all of the turn them into bricks basically, and that's going to be how we're going to do it. And then Tesla came along and said, this is what we're going to do. And the only thing we really would like to add was those 4680 batteries. So they would be fabulous for us to get our hands on. I really like those. I like the bigger battery.
Great. For example, the bigger battery, it's better in many different ways. And how did you predict that accurate? Either for the battery size or the car structure thing, how to cool the batteries. How did you come up to this prediction?
Well, we've been looking at electric vehicles for a long time, but prior to that, we were looking at electric products that were for the Defense Department, and so we knew what would be optimal if we were using cylindrical batteries, and that's kind of what that's the battery type that Tesla is using. And so we had tried many different diameters, and we found out that 50 by 70 or 50 by 80 was about the best you could do. And then the reason that I wanted to go to something much bigger was because I wanted to have the energy density that can come from that type of a battery, cylindrical battery. It gives off an awful lot of power. So I was very interested in that kind of a product. but I couldn't sell it to anybody. Nobody was interested. As far as the structure of the battery pack and and I've been talking about trying to get companies involved with casting the front and rear of the product to eliminate a lot of the work that comes from the weld shop and whatnot. It's a lot of and basically it's inaccurate. It's not accurate enough. And I tried to talk lots of different companies into doing the whole front end. So that's basically what Tesla's saying is going to be their next project. And I thought almost I was pretty sure that I was going to be able to get a rear end, complete rear end done, but then company changed its mind. And the reason it changed its mind was because nobody else is doing it and we don't want to be first. Tesla doesn't think that way. They want to be first and foremost, and so they just basically leave everyone else in the dust. But these are things that I've been talking about for a long time. Yeah.
Great. So, you have predicted. So there was not much surprise for you on the battery day?
No, it was a surprise because when I told the people that we were interviewed a couple of times, and when I told the people that, hey, I'm predicting this, and everybody was saying, oh, come on, Sandy, you're dreaming in Technicolor. Really, come on, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. And then when it did happen, and we were on that show, the first show, and I went, yeah. I don't know if they put that up there, but that's kind of like, I was pretty happy. I was very, very excited. And the next day I got even more excited because all the analysts said, oh, we were expecting, what? Are you kidding me? These are dramatic differences in manufacturing. These are things that are going to change the way everyone's going to think. And these guys are saying things like, well, that takes 3 years. 3 years. Have these guys ever done anything? I mean, I wouldn't trust most of the analysts I bumped into building a birdhouse, let alone, basically the best car on the planet right now, as electric car on the planet for sure.
You mentioned Tesla might be 10 years ahead of everybody else.
Right. Well, it depends on what area. I think on body construction now, they're 10 years ahead of everyone. I think that battery technology, that pushed them ahead 8 years ahead of everyone. Their circuit boards and their chip design, IC design, that's 10 years ahead of everybody else. Electric motor wise, I'm thinking people are going to catch up, but I've heard through the grapevine that some people are going to try and leapfrog the electric motor technology, but I haven't seen it yet. So I'm saying 5 years on that, and then on the inverters, I think that people could catch up to Tesla, but I don't think that they want to take the risk of mounting their inverters to the top of their electric motors and get rid of a lot of the aluminum plates and whatnot that are going to disappear to match Tesla. So that one probably 3 to 4 years ahead of everyone else. Wow. But the problem with everybody saying that is that Tesla's not going to stay there. They're going to move faster than everyone else. Oh, and then there's the cooling, and that's definitely 10 years ahead of everybody. So the thing is, Tesla made 13 design changes on their cooling system between when we started looking at it on April the 1st and when we saw a new vehicle, which was at the end of July. Say April 1st to July 1st to August 1st. 13 engineering changes. I don't think I ever got an engineering change through at Ford, not one. It took forever. I got promoted out of the area, and they still hadn't made up their mind on it. You know what? That continuous engineering improvement. Mm-hmm. So Toyota definitely invented continuous improvement on the factory floor, but these guys are doing continuous improvement in the engineering room, and that is definitely unheard of. That's why I worry about the rest of the world. as far as the OEMs and whatnot, because they have to try and adopt this new thinking.
So the existing large corporations, so they not only have to design the new way or maybe think new ways, but they also have some, issues with the people, just like unions and things, they cannot let go too many people at a time, or, it's going to create many chaos. So new companies like, Chinese companies or those started companies, they have nothing to lose, so they can go, full on ahead. And so is Tesla, I believe. What do you recommend for the existing big auto companies to how to make the shift?
The one thing that I know the most about with Toyota is that Toyota looks at its human resources that's the real secret to the business. So for Toyota, they're going to have to rethink a lot of different things, and they're going to have to do it much quicker than they would normally do. And I think that what's going to happen is Toyota is going to probably try and figure out the most humane way to make these big changes. So if you go into a body shop and you remove the about 1,000 parts that go into a body and the 4,000 welds and joining techniques that you need to do in order to put it together, that's going to eliminate a lot of folks. There's a lot of people that are going to be very unlucky. But it won't happen quickly. So I hope that Toyota is going to move quickly into a new platforms. There's not really much that you want to try and do I would not follow in Tesla's footsteps and say that, okay, we had a couple of hundred parts in operations here to do a wheel inner, and now we have an aluminum casting that we're going to slide into place. That's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to figure out how are we going to have the front end of the vehicle and the rear end of the vehicle and the center section of the vehicle in 3 different castings. How are we going to do that? And the lucky thing for Japan is that there's only 3 places in the world that make the great big giant die casting machines, and one is in Japan, one's in China, and one's in Italy. That can help them out. And quite frankly, when it comes to die and mold kind of technology, Japan is well placed. They do a good job in Japan. Japanese dies and molds are well known for being exacting and standing up well during operation. But right now, I never thought I'd ever hear this, but we're in talks with one Japanese company, but it's in the United States, and they've really never talked to us before. And what they're asking for is help on how to move from where they are to where they need to be. And they need to do it rather quickly because they were behind the curve before this happened with Tesla, and now they're really struggling. So I'm hoping that we can help them out here in the United States, and then maybe we'll get to go to Japan again.
I'm sure you're under NDAs and things, so you cannot talk about which company it is, but I'm sure this is going to be the name that everyone knows. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm sure everyone in Japan would know the name.
Right.
And so mostly with Japanese, we work with tier ones. That's primarily where we do our work with Japanese companies. We used to work with Toyota, and we used to work with many different companies. But you can't work for Toyota and Honda; they don't like each other. We worked for Toyota a long time ago, and we also worked for Mazda and Nissan.
I hope Japan will have more direct relationship with you and your company, and to make the whole world a better place, basically.
Exactly right. I'd like to try and help the Japanese car companies. I want to help every car company get into EVs because, as I predicted, and I'm now quite sure is going to come true, the crossover date is going to be not 2045 or 2040. I believe that the crossover date is going to be 2030. And one of the things that's an indicator on that is that California has said they will not accept any, zero, no, none ICE vehicles after 2035. I know that most of the non-car producing states are also looking at maybe going for that same 2035 number. So that means if say 10 states go, what are you going to do with those ICE factories? What are you going to do with them? You're not going to be selling to too many. And I know what Europe is doing, and I know what China is doing. So I'm saying 2030. And like I said, I make a lot of predictions, and a lot of them are right. This one here is a long time from now, so no one may remember. But I'll tell you right now, if you're not at least 50% into EVs by 2030, you're done. You're going to be gone. Period. And I am right a lot when it comes to those kinds of predictions. Yeah.
Great. Well, maybe the state that you live in might be one of the last states to decide that way.
Yeah. Well, I think so, because they keep going back to the old ways, and that doesn't help you. You need to start thinking about the situation now, not about the old days or the good old days and whatnot. And I think that's why Ford has fired and hired so many new executives, because I think the Ford family is seeing that unless they change their ways, they're going to lose the whole company. So they're making fairly rapid changes. And then you've got GM saying that they're going to crank out 11 new EVs. Well, that's a lot of cranking. That's a lot of new product. I haven't heard much from Chrysler. I don't know what FCA is going to do, and but I can tell you for sure that coming in second place after Tesla is Volkswagen. Mm-hmm. VW is definitely serious about entering the market and exceeding in the market. And I think one of the main reasons is because they got such a black eye with the diesel engine problems, right, that they need to change their image, and they need to do it quickly. So because they're under the gun, they'll move probably faster than everyone else. But I think that VW is going to be, and VW has Porsche and they have Audi, and they've been Porsche and Audi. Both of those vehicles are they're from the ground up EVs, and there's some pretty that's good, some good engineering in it. So I'm thinking that Volkswagen is probably right now the biggest contender against Tesla. We wanted to get one of the VWs to tear apart and whatnot, but they checked. They saw that some of the guys here at MUNRO were putting in a name, and even though they used their personal email address, they had our bios. And so they made a comparison between, here's some guys trying to buy a car, and here's the bios from MUNRO, and they went, uh-oh, no, you don't get one. So that was that's the story we've been told anyway.
Those car companies don't want you to, tear apart?
No. Car companies want us to work with them, but they do not want their car showing up here. Mm-hmm. We've torn apart many, many vehicles, and sometimes we tear apart the car for a customer. And that means that everything is secret. We don't ever share any secrets, nothing. If a car comes in here, we can tear it apart, redesign it, and give it back to the customer, and it's all kept very quiet. Mm-hmm. And in some cases, in one case, we managed to find $2,000 in cost reduction. And by implementing those $2,000 in cost reduction, we also found ways that they could add features and functions to their vehicle that didn't cost anything at all. So that customer and others, they're very appreciative.
When you first dissected the Tesla Model 3 back in 2018, and you basically trashed them in many different areas. Some good, some many bad too. And then you compared with that with Model Y recently. But back in 2018, did you get a lot of feedback from Tesla?
Not so much. I talked to Elon Musk 2 or 3 times, and they were always conference calls. But what we did do was we gave them 150 ideas that we came up with. 250 ideas that we came up with, and we shipped them to them. And what we did was we tracked, when we started tearing apart the Model Y, we tracked how many did they implement versus how many did we give them. And the implementation was about 137 that we found. Wow. We think there might be 150, but 137, that's a big number. They made a lot of changes in a very short period of time. And the Model Y, I mean, is a good example. They made all those changes from the 3 to the Y that, like, I never recommended anybody's electric vehicle, ever. None. Until the Y came out. And then I had a few of my friends that said, well, I'm thinking of buying an electric car. Which should I get a Jaguar? Should I get a Bolt? And I said, look, we've taken all those things to pieces. Here's the one I recommend. And I recommended the Model Y. And every one of those people that I recommended the Model Y to is ecstatic. Say it's the best car they've ever had, and definitely is the cheapest to run. So,
all right. Well, so you told us about the continuous improvements, but there are some voices I hear that changing too many things within too short of a time may cause future problems. What do you think about that?
I think that what really causes problems is when everybody decides that they have to do a batch fix. Mm-hmm. So what they do is, and this is what all car companies except for Tesla does. So you say, okay, there's something wrong with the engine, there's something wrong with the transmission, there's something wrong with the right corner, there's something wrong with the seat in the back, there's something wrong with the instrument panel and whatnot. Everybody get your ideas together, then everybody come up with a solution, and then we'll all wait until 2 years from now and implement them. Mm-hmm. That's dangerous. So the people who say, oh, they're making a lot of changes, so that's going to piss somebody off, I don't think so. I think what pisses them off is that it didn't get changed, and they don't do things retroactively. We'll just fix the other ones, and then we've got them. We'll have them come in with their car, and they'll have to pay a big giant service fee. We've made a lot of money. That approach, that's an old-fashioned approach, and that's not the wave of the future.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Well, we've talked about so much, and your insights are really, really, wonderful, and gives us so much, things to hope for, dream about the future EV world. I drive Model 3, and, I still think Model Y is so much better. I've driven.
Yes, and you should get one. Go and sell that 3 to somebody else and get yourself a Y, because you will really like it. You look like the kind of guy that likes to put his foot into the accelerator, and you will be blown away when that happens. I'm telling you, it's a really, really nice drive. It's rock solid with the big castings in the back. It feels very, very, very strong all the time. Yeah. So when you get that, you'll have to send me a picture of you and your new Tesla.
Yes, I will. Well, okay. Japan is still waiting for Model Y. They don't have it yet. They're hoping to have it soon. So because it takes time to make the steering wheel on the other side.
Yeah, right. So I think that probably the Chinese version will show up in the Japanese market. But
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there anything you want to mention to Japanese people or Japanese companies? Anything at all?
Well, I think that the one thing I'd like to mention is that the Japanese still make, as far as I'm concerned, the best vehicles on the planet, and so I just would like to see the Japanese companies move faster. And as Dr. Deming used to say, speed is not haste. It's always good to gather data, and that's what we sell is data. So if I can make a plea, it might be worthwhile for the Japanese car companies to have a look at what we've come up with in the way of these different reports that we can sell. Because without the deep knowledge that we've gathered here at a reasonable price as well, from the teardowns of the Model 3, the Model Y, the Bolt, all these other different vehicles, plus the battery teardowns, and then into the really minuscule things like the boards and whatnot that we've taken apart, and the chips that are inside, how do they work and whatnot. Without that type of deep knowledge and deep costing knowledge, it just takes your people too long to catch up. It's better to buy the data and get going, and that's what we're hoping can happen with maybe some of your videos, that they'll contact us so we can help them by selling them that stuff. And then we also are doing remote. We're doing a lot of remote workshops and whatnot. None in Japan, but we're doing them for Korea, in China, in Europe.
Wow.
But it'd be great if we could get that going again.
Yes. Great. Well, my last question is that when you did the top 10 takeaways,
Yes.
you were still working on dissecting the Generation 3 system board.
Mm-hmm.
Have you finished that research already?
So I think we've got 4 of those boards done.
2018, you mentioned that the Generation 2.5 was already 5 to 7 years ahead of everybody else.
Right.
Do you think with Generation 3, it's going to be more gap, or?
I don't. You're talking about automatic driving?
Yes.
Okay, I think that Tesla is at 4.5. Right now.
5 years?
No, they are at 4.5 out of 5. Okay, so 5 is like total autonomous driving.
Right.
I believe that they're at 4.5, and I believe that that everybody else is lagging behind. They're way behind. So I believe that everyone is thinking that Tesla is at X, when in actuality they're much further down the road. Much further down the road. And that ADAS board that's 10 years ahead. That's the one I was mentioning before. That's 10 years ahead of everybody else.
Wow.
Nobody's even close there. Yeah.
Wow, great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really appreciate working overtime tonight. I understand you're so busy today, full day, and I know it's already late your time. It's nice and sunny here in Hawaii, but
yeah. It's raining here, and it's raining with snow in it, so you're in a much better place, yeah. So
thank you again, and I'm sure a lot of people in Japan will be thrilled to hear you, and I'm going to be translating more shows from you. So again, thank you so much for your support and availability.
Well, domo arigato.
Oh, arigato.
Domo arigato. Yes, that too, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sandy.
All right. Okay. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
さていかがでしたか？サンディさんは日本の自動車業界がですね、まだまだ世界一のクオリティで車を作る力があると言ってましたよね。そしてぜひとも新しい時代に向けて新車開発とか技術開発のスピードをどんどん上げてほしいとおっしゃっていました。そして私はサンディさんがもっとこれからですね、日本の企業とつながりを深くしていってほしいなと思っています。またサンディさんの話は自動車業界でなくてもすごく参考になるんですよね。 サンディさんの会社、ムンロー&アソシエイツのレポートとか、それを日本で代理店をしているマークライン社の連絡先、この下の概要欄に貼っておきます。またサンディさんが今取り組んでいる新型 EV 事業への日本からの投資も求めていますよ。もしご質問とかありましたら、この下に私のね、メールアドも貼っておきますので、ぜひご連絡ください。では、今後もサンディ・ムンロさんの動画を日本語化してお届けしますね。では、また。